Today we will be talking about the Union Pacific Railroad. July 1st, 1862 was an exciting day for the people in Omaha, Nebraska. That day, the Union Pacific was on its way to become a huge railroad. The railroad was completed on May 10th, 1869. The construction of the railroad took 6 to 7 years. The person who constructed the Union Pacific Railroad was none other than Thomas C. Durant. We will be taking a trip to the Depot Museum to learn more about the Union Pacific Railroad.
Railroad, when it was originally built, you can see on the wall, they used to use mule teams, and they would mark the ties to find out how old they were, so they wouldn't rot out and keep track. And these are called tie nails. And a tie nail has a number on it, and they would record the number, and they would have a section that they would keep track. Well, this one was ties 30 were put back in 1920. So by 1925 or maybe 1935, we got to pull all those ties. The tools that were used by the railroad are over here. And we have a few other miscellaneous parts around. There's some springs, some brake shoes. The large items there are called knuckles, and they are used where the two trains join. What linemen look like in the miniature train and so on. Well, the depot kind of became a focus. And we had 3 depots. First 2 burned down. Red roof, yellow brick building. That's the depot. And behind it is what they call the Greer House. The Greer House would be our Holiday Inns of today, because they didn't have food on trains, they didn't have sleeper cars. So if you wanted to eat or rest, you stayed in one of the Greer Houses. It was a hotel. And those are the smaller train, that's the end scale, very small. The examples of the one you had over there is the end. We have the Pullman, which was a sleeper car. Well, they converted it to what they call, I call them dandy dancers. They're the workers that repaired the train lines and so on. This particular car was back in about 1920s or something. So it's a fairly old car. Massive, it's all steel. So it's a very, very heavy car. So we're gonna go up and look in there and see what's inside there right now. We're gonna move in towards the dining area. And it had like a bar. And you had the stools, and they would bring the gentlemen in. They had the range, and they would cook food, and they would feed the crews. They would have their shift, they would get a bite to eat, and then the next group would come in, they'd feed them, and the next group, and so on. The caboose was, a lot of times, they had the brakeman back there. Beside the caboose, he or she, well, usually a male, they would keep track because they had a lot of problem with fires, what they call hot boxes. The ball bearings would get hot on the wheels, and they would have a spark or something, and now we have a fire out in the country. So they were watching, that's why the term called firemen came in, because they were watching from the top of the caboose looking for any fires or so on. This would have been the last train or the last car on the train. And this had 2 spots. We're going to turn around and look and see. You had a brakeman and a fireman, and they could sit in the seats above. Grain that they produced. How did they transport it? Well, it would have been drawn by a horse and a wagon. So how long would it take to get that to a market? So what you needed some kind of a freight service. Well, that was a railroad. And then if you had cattle, then you would have to haul them and ship them north. They went to Chicago for packing. The Union Pacific carries a lot of grain cars. The one that I see more often than not coming through right now is we have oil that is coming from the state of Utah, and they're shipping it through and is going to Oklahoma and Texas for refinery to be refined. I became interested in trains as a guide. We get people that come in to visit us, And a lot of times they maybe even worked out at Lyman or in the area, and they have some tremendous stories. And I like to hear what people share about their stories and what they did when they were growing up or as they were working. So
Dennis has been an employee for the Union Pacific for 5 years.
When we get our natural disasters, it's like floods, tornadoes, that kind of stuff. Tracks will wash out, we'll have to go out and fix all that. Heat makes the rail grow. So you'll start getting sun kings, we'll have to go cut track out and shorten it up. Wintertime it shrinks, it'll break. We'll fix that. But I do know, like our track is 56.5 inches wide. That measurement originated from the old wagon trains because their wheelbase was 56.5 inches wide. So they made the railroad tracks 56.5 inches wide. We are building America, keeping it rolling.
Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned a lot.